Hey guys, this is Jacques from MakuluLinux. I'm going to show you a nice big overview of the new KDE version that's currently being released. Instead of doing the usual release notes, I'm going to make this video. It's going to be quite lengthy, but it's going to cover the whole OS. Okay, so at boot up you can see it's running on 390 odd megs of RAM. Considering that Sysguard in this case is running 9.5 megs of RAM over there and 24 megs of shared RAM there, and jumping between 1 and 3, 4, 5% CPU usage. If you actually remove Sysguard, you'll see this operating system actually runs on less than 390 megs of RAM, about 380 odd megs of RAM at boot up. Right. So we've got this OS KDE. Currently running on, let's say, 385 to 390 megs of RAM at boot up. And now I want to show what's all in it. What do you all get for that kind of memory at idle? Right. And just by the way, under 400 megs of RAM for KDE, that's comes preloaded with effects and apps and everything else running in the background. It really isn't bad. Okay, so off the bat you're already getting something that is extremely optimized on resources. I've worked very hard to achieve this. Okay, so if we boot up for the first time, boot into KDE, you're going to obviously get past the loading screen and you're going to see your desktop. Like all other Makulu distributions, I generally go with a nice traditional layout, you know, the clock, calendar, daily quotes on the desktop. I usually put those on most of our distributions. You can obviously move the clock to wherever you want. You just got to unlock your widgets, obviously. So you can, for example, move the clock to the top right if you want. If you feel more comfortable with sort of the XFCE look that we have, you can move your clock and your quotes kind of pretty much wherever you want. And then let's just relock the widgets again. If you feel more comfortable with it being there, simply unlock the widgets, drag them around to wherever you want. But when you get it, they'll be on the left hand side. Okay. And one of the reasons I really do that is I haven't quite found a way for widgets to be aligned to the right side of the screen. And you know, on different resolutions, if you can't really align it to the right side of the screen properly and you use it on a bigger resolution, you end up with a clock in the middle of the screen or sort of off center. And so I'd rather just, you know, the easiest way for me to bypass that was to just put them on the left, because the left's always aligned to left. And then users can drag them wherever they want, but they kind of do look pretty on the left as well, so it's, you know, it's not such a big deal. I would have liked to have put them this way though, but it's not such a big deal. I usually just drag them over myself, but let's just, for interest's sake, just put them back where they were so you can kind of see the distribution the way it will be on your you know, on your system when you first boot up. Okay, so put the clock and the calendar and everything back there. Right. So you're going to get this traditional desktop with a panel at the bottom, the two menus, system icons on the right, favorites icons on the left. The two menus are obviously the more traditional home run, the more commonly home run menu on the left, the Synapse launcher on the right, which is a quick launcher. So you can kind of just type something in there and just launch, or you can search files and folders. So that Synapse is very handy. I use it quite often. I just want to run through these icons quickly. So on the left you get the clock and calendar. Okay, you get your notifications and device notifier. You get your battery power. You get your volume controls. You get your networking controls. You get your clipboard. You get your keyboard layout controls, and you also get a news reader or news feeder little icon, little orange icon. This will kind of show you all the latest topics on the front posts on the home page of MakuluLinux. So you can simply just click that, it opens up. If you want to open any of them, you just click on it. Otherwise, just click on the icon Well, I think if you click on the click on the desktop next to the icon or icon itself, it disappears again. Very quick, very easy, and very handy for such a little thing that takes such a little bit of space. Okay, on the left you obviously get your default icons, favorite icons that we usually put in distribution. So you get a file manager, a web browser, terminal, software center, which is AppGrid, and your quick update apt cache. Okay, the menus itself, the home run menu has a bunch of favorites in. I think it's 6 favorites in the menu as well. Okay, so in other words, you got 11 favorites in total, and they kind of run in an L-shaped. So you got the ones at the bottom bar here, the 5 ones here, and the 6 ones up here. So it's kind of like an L shape with all your favorites, quick and easy. The ones up here is obviously your system settings, your package manager, Emerald theme manager, your Compiz manager, system information, and your sources settings manager kind of thing. Okay, so with that being said, before I run through all the programs and everything, I just want to get into the actual how I, the what's behind this KDE edition, why I built it, and what it's all about. Okay, so if you've run any KDE before, you will know that KDE can be quite complex, especially when you get into the KWin side of things and you configuring all the different effects and things like that. It gets quite complex. Okay, this edition, however, does not feature KWin at all. KWin is gone from the system. You could probably try and reinstall it, but you're probably going to have a lot of great difficulty doing that. I've tried my utmost to sort of get rid of KWin completely. I mean, there are files and stuff that's been completely deleted and sort of blocked, and so reinstalling KWin is possible, but with great difficulty. Okay, instead I opted to go with Compiz as a window manager. Okay, so a lot of people are going to be quite shocked at that and like, wow, why the hell, and what the hell, and I know that Compiz can be a handful on KDE because it wasn't quite designed, I suppose, to be very compatible with KDE. There are those that experiment with it, end users, but even then they usually have a lot of instability in the system. Now I've worked hard to get this Compiz working in KDE, that's with it running very stable. I've worked very hard on that. And there are a couple of reasons why I installed Compiz. One, out of the box you can put on a whole bunch of effects that work on just about any PC, even on VirtualBox. KWin doesn't. You need OpenGL and you need a powerful graphics card, at least a very decent graphics card, to run KWin successfully and smoothly. Even onboard graphics struggle with KWin sometimes. And so that's one reason. The other reason is obviously the fact that with most of the other distros that are put out, Compiz is kind of the window manager that I kind of include as well. Although in the others I usually make it optional. And the reason I make it optional is because with XFCE and Cinnamon, people tend to run them on very old PCs. And I didn't want to still, drag out extra resources. Therefore, I gave the user the chance to switch it on or off. If he's running a modern PC, switch it on, and he's got all the effects. If he's running very old PC, switch it off. And then he doesn't have to worry that he's going to be wasting resources. With KDE, it's quite different because the people that run KDE, they have decent PCs. Nobody's going to take out an old i386 and try and put KDE on that. It's never going to run as fluid as that same machine will run XFCE, for example. So generally, the users that use KDE, they have the system to run the effects. Understand? So memory and CPU usage and things like that's usually not such a major concern with KDE, because people that have these systems have 4 or 8 or 16 gigs of RAM, and they've got dual core or quad core CPUs or 6 core CPUs or whatever the case might be. However, that does not mean that I do not optimize the system. I have optimized the system. You literally saw there it's running on about 385 to 390 megs of RAM at boot up. CPU usage is at minimal, and usually once it settles, once the the apps have checked for updates and everything else in the background. After about a minute or two, it actually settles down to like spikes between, I'd say, about 1 and 5-6% CPU usage, which is very, very normal on a system. And I've got pretty much a whole bunch of effects running in the background. Okay, so Compiz is the standard window manager here. I would highly advise not to change that. Rather work within the limitations of Compiz. If you don't like the effects, switch them off. If you like the effects, keep them. If you want more effects, switch them on. But Compiz is the default window manager on this KDE edition. Okay. Now, before I get into Compiz, I just want to run through the system, the base versions and whatever else. Okay, so KDE is version 4.14.2. That's the current KDE version. And if we go to system information, you're going to see here that the current Linux kernel is 3.13.0-45 generic i686. Now what i686 means is that it's not a standard 32-bit kernel, and neither is it a x64 64-bit kernel. It's the kind of in-between kernel, the PAE kernel, which means that if you running a 64-bit CPU, or you're running 4 gigs or 8 gigs or 16 or 32 gigs of RAM, or whatever the case might be, or more, you can run this edition on your PC. It will take control of all your RAM, it will use a CPU, it will run perfectly fine on a 64-bit hardware without any kind of issues. Now, the only limitation with this edition is the guys that run dedicated 64-bit software that has no alternative 32-bit version. Meaning if you're running some application that only gets made in 64-bit, there's no 32-bit version available for it, then I could see that you're going to have hassles with this operating system, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm not quite ready for moving to 64-bit yet. And as such, I will keep putting out PAE versions, because 99% of the population, actually 99.95% of the population, I would say, would run perfectly fine on a PAE system without any kind of hassles. It's a very, very, very small fraction of a percent that actually need 64-bit. And generally those users kind of, when they need a 64-bit, they usually set on their preferred distribution that they use. So I don't think that, out of thousands of downloads, many thousands of downloads, I'm probably going to have one guy complaining that he can't run this game or he can't run that because of 64-bit. And I'm sorry about that. There are ways around it. Usually with those softwares, there are fixes to make it run on 32-bit. If not, you can always upgrade your operating system to 64-bit. There are guides online for doing it. They could be a little bit lengthy, but if you really want a dedicated 64-bit operating system, what's an hour of your time sitting there converting it? So with that, let's move on to the actual operating system itself. One of the first things you're going to notice off the bat, once you got past the desktop and start playing with the file manager and the console and everything else, is how pretty it is. Okay, now looks is not everything in an operating system, I understand that, and I've worked hard to make this operating system rock solid, stable, and very functional. I've added a lot of functionality to this, and trust me, it's been tested. It is rock solid, stable. Now, with that being said, there is no harm in making an operating system pretty. I know there are those guys out there that say, who cares about looks? Well, for one, I do. What's the point in having something that looks like it came out of the 70s? I'm proud of my desktop. I want to be proud of my desktop. I want to run it and I want to go, wow, this is awesome. And I like the feeling it gives me when I do that, or when I see that. So yeah, of course looks is important. I mean, we're in 2015. We're not back in the 70s anymore. And frankly, a lot of the developers that put out these very plain operating systems, I think they're very lazy. you know, because if I can do it as a solo developer on my own, if I can achieve this, why can't guys that work in teams of 20, 10, 20, 50, why can't they achieve that as well? I mean, these guys make tons of money. They're literally paying their coders, so why don't they hire some pro coders, some pro graphic developers, and go crazy and just make something that wow, you know, just blows you away? I cannot understand that. But anyway, so yeah, so that's how I just feel about it, and that's never gonna change. I'm always going to put out something that's just blows you away with the graphics department. It's kind of a skill I have, and I'm going to be putting it to use. So you can always expect that from any kind of distribution that I make. Okay, so KDE uses a whole bunch of themes. Okay, you've got your user theme, you've got your root theme, you've got your GTK theme on the user side, your GTK theme on the root side. You've also got a desktop shell theme. Okay, and these are just, I'm talking about just themes. That's apart from your icons, that's apart from your mouse cursor and everything else. I'm just talking the actual the background themes that kind of skin your desktop. Okay, so you've got literally 5 themes running in the background all at the same time. Okay, the current one you see here is the normal standard user theme. Okay, which I made pretty lightweight, light in color. Okay, so it's got a very sort of a light off-white grayish color mixed with white, mixed with sort of a off-white blue, off blue highlights. Okay, so that's pretty much nice and bright, you know, not too bright, not too dark. It's just perfect for any kind of eyesight. You can easily view the icons, easily see the fonts and the text and everything else. Okay, so that's the user oxygen, that's the oxygen theme, that's the normal user theme. Okay, and of course the GTK theme, if I open up some GTA app here, a GTK based app here, you'll see the GTK theme is pretty much very similar looking. So I kind of worked with these themes to sort of get them looking the same. So you got the white in the middle, you got the grey, off-white grey kind of category section, you know, so they look pretty much the same. This one's GTK based, that one is oxygen based. You can barely tell the difference. You'll see the difference with the highlights. If you highlight something on oxygen, it highlights like a off blue color. If you highlight something here, it sort of highlights more of a kind of a darker white, more grayish highlight. So that's how you tell the difference between the two. Okay, but apart from that, they look almost identical. You've also got the root theme. So if I open up something here with root, let's open up in root. Sorry, different password. Okay, the root theme is much darker. Okay, so in the root theme you've got a much darker grey with a sort of a charcoal in the middle here, and you've got very bright orange highlights. Okay, now the reason for that is that I wanted the user to know that he's in root. You know, because you don't always look at the top thing, at the top title bar where it says open as root, and it could be 4 o'clock in the morning and you could be very tired, but you've still got work to do, and you accidentally change something on the system and you don't realize you're in root and the change is permanent and you're buggered. Now you sit and you've got hours of extra work to fix what you broke. So I wanted the user to know that he's in root. That was very important to me because I found myself in that situation a few times. So, you know, a dark, very dark theme with bright colors, sort of the bright highlight, shows the user that he's in root. So yeah, that's the root theme. Okay, so you got a whole bunch of themes. You've also got your border theme, which would be the 6th, because I've already mentioned 5. The shell theme I'll get to in a second, but you've also got your border theme. Okay, so the border theme and the shell theme pretty much run side by side. If you actually pull down this and you actually compare the window border to the shell theme, you're going to see that they look virtually identical. Okay, so I spent a lot of time making you see it on the widget as well. If you look at the widget, the panel, and the border, you're going to see that they pretty much look identical. Okay, so that is the glossified look that I've gone for. Okay, the actual theme on the workspace desktop theme is actually called glossified. There it is, glossified, and I built the Compiz and everything else around that, so I've got the whole glossified transparent look. It's got, if you open up a window, it's got a 365 degree transparent border right around the actual window. With the bottom panel being transparent, it kind of makes it's the same effect I've gone for on XFCE, where you kind of feel like this middle section of the window is kind of lying on this transparent layer on the desktop. It just makes it look so much more modernized and awesome, and you can kind of see the background. It kind of just feels like it's floating the window. It's very, very awesome, very cool. Okay, now there are two versions of this shell theme. You've got the one that's called glossified, okay, and that's the default one, and that's pretty much what you see here with the widget, the menu, okay. And then I had users that complained about, what about the menu overlapping, you can't see properly, what about the text over there, you know, a lot of people with bad eyesight might struggle with the text. Okay, and then I found this other theme that actually fitted perfectly for this. It's a Russian, or I assume that's Russian. I'm not quite sure what language it is. I don't know what it's called because I can't read that. But let's just refer to it as the Russian theme. Okay, so there's a Russian theme included here as well. It's just a couple of tabs up. It's actually at the very top. And if you apply that theme, it will still keep the glossified look. Okay, the transparent look. It will keep the same perfect border. It's been modified a little bit, and as you can see, there's still a glossified look here at the edges, but anywhere that there's text, it will actually make it much darker and much easier to see. So if anybody has any kind of eyesight problems, simply switch over the shell theme to that little Russian one on top, and you'll still keep this whole glossified look to match the rest of the desktop environment. You can actually see that nice thin layer around there, but you'll have a much darker sort of shell theme, making everything so much easier to see for those guys that do have eyesight problems. Okay, so even adding things like let's go add like something like an analog clock or something. Add widgets. Let's add an analog clock in here. So let's put a clock there, and let's minimize this. And once again, as you can see, let's configure that quickly, easily. Let's just put the second hand in there just to make it look a little bit more awesome. And there we go. And then as you can see, let's lock the widgets. As you can see, you got a much darker sort of, anywhere where there's kind of any display or text or anything, it's much darker, and you still have the same glossified border that just sort of melts it into the desktop. Okay, so so those are the two shell themes that kind of run the system. If you want to keep the same standard look, you've got the sort of Russian theme on top, which is obviously just turns any kind of text section much darker, and then you've got the glossified, which is the default theme that comes, shell theme that comes with the system. I've included a whole bunch of other themes over here, so users can play with it. Not too many, just a couple, sort of, you know, just sort of give it a little bit of that variety. Okay, so so you've got the window border theme and you've got the shell theme that kind of match, you know. So I spent a lot of time on these themes to make everything just feel smooth and just flow nicely. Okay, so wherever you open up, you're going to get this sense of comfortability. You know, it's just everything feels comfortable, and the reason for that is that I actually spent time on all of this. You know, I mean, I even spent time on shading things at different layers of shading and so forth. So a lot of time I spent on all of this. Okay, if you actually open up the Emerald Theme Manager, which runs your border themes, okay, you're gonna see it's so easy to theme something. There's 93 different themes included, 93 different border themes, so you can just click on anything and it will just change. Okay, that's very, very awesome. There's a wide variety of themes included as well. And not just that, you can actually create some yourself. Okay, so you can literally create themes. Half of these themes were created from the other half of the themes in the system, so that is very, very cool. Okay, so at your fingertips you got access to all of this. Okay, so let's just go to the default theme here. Default, there we go, that's what it looks like. Okay, so that's a very glassified, transparent look with the traditional buttons on the right. However, I do understand and I do realize that some guys some guys come from Ubuntu or they come from Mac OSs and they prefer these buttons on the other side of the screen. Okay, so for those users I have for those users I have included a default theme with the buttons on the right, and I've included a default left theme with the buttons on the left. So now if you open up something, you'll actually have your open, close and minimize and maximize buttons on the left hand side of the screen. So if you prefer it on the left, just choose default left theme as a window theme, and you've got exactly the same standard theme that it comes out with, this awesome theme, but with the buttons on the left. Okay, so I'm just going to switch it back to default. Okay, so I've spent a lot of time trying to take everybody into consideration, even little things like guys wanting the buttons on the other side of the screen. I literally recreated the same theme but with the buttons on the other side. Okay, so I spent a lot of time in theme. In other words, I put a lot of effort into this. That's what it boils down to. That I didn't just make this OS and then just, you know, slapped on this and slapped on that. I actually literally sat and themed and skinned and made a whole variety of things to make it just bling more, you know what I mean? Right, so with the window themes out of the way, I want to actually get into the actual effects. Okay, so as you notice off the bat, you've got wobbly windows working straight out of the box. Okay, which means you've got the whole bouncy effects, and you've got the minimize and maximize, magic lamp effects. You've also got the window previews. Okay, and out of the box, if you hold down Control and Alt and tap left or right, you've got the cube fully functional out of the box. And remember, I'm running this in VirtualBox, right? I'm not even running this on actual hardware, so this is amazing speed. Okay, so you've got the cube working, you've got the unfolded cube working. If you hold Control Alt and push down, you've got the unfolded cube. That's with reflections. Okay, so you've got the reflections where you see the dark background on the top, and you've got the reflections, the silver background at the bottom with reflections on that. You've also got the cylinder, so if you hold your mouse to the screen edge, hold down Control and Alt and sort of drag the cursor, you're going to get the cylinder mode, where you can actually see it's completely hollow. Okay, so there's the cylinder mode as well. So that's pretty awesome. 3D, very, very cool. So these effects are enabled off the bat. Okay, so Compiz is fully functional with these effects running at the start on 390 megs of RAM. So that's pretty impressive. Okay, so now with that, with the theming and the effects sort of out of the way, I just want to run through these some of these menus and icons. Okay, so off the bat, the favorite icons here is the System Settings Manager. Okay, so if you open up that, you can pretty much manage your whole system from here, just kind of almost any setting anywhere except for your workspaces. Okay, the workspaces has limited settings here. You cannot, and I want to stress this because I know a lot of people are going to ask about this, and I have made a whole bunch of video tutorials. As you can see, there's a little link on the desktop that takes you to KDE video tutorials. If you double click that, it takes you to the website with a whole bunch of videos that show how to do certain things in this operating system. Now, one of the things that you're gonna probably off the bat notice is that you cannot change the number of workspaces via system settings. Okay, you can, but not with cube enabled. Okay, so I want to explain that quickly. It won't take very long. So let's open up the config Windows Settings Manager and open up the virtual desktops inside System Settings. Right. So in this you will notice cube is enabled, desktop cube is enabled, rotate cube is enabled, cube reflections is enabled. Okay, right. While cube is enabled, you will have to set the virtual desktops inside Compiz settings manager, and that you get under general options, desktop size, and there you go. It's set to 4 at the moment. So let's go back again. General options, desktop size, and there you go, set to 4 desktops. I can set that higher or lower. Okay, now that is with cube enabled. Okay, so if you hold down Control Alt, those are the 4 virtual desktops with cube enabled. If you want to manage your desktops via your virtual desktops in system settings, you will have to disable cube. So you'll have to disable this cube reflection, disable rotate cube, and disable cube. If you disable cube, you will then manage your virtual desktops via system settings, and you get that easily. If you open up system settings, you go to workspace behavior, virtual desktops, and there you can set the number. Okay, so with cube enabled, you manage your virtual desktops via Compiz settings manager under general virtual desktops, desktop size, sorry, and with cube disabled, you will manage it via your system settings. It's actually very easy. Okay, so the one or the other. It depends if cube is enabled or if it's disabled. By default, cube is enabled, so you will set it here. But if you don't like cube, don't use it, don't want it, you can switch it off and then manage it here. Okay, so that is one major thing I want to point out, because I know people are going to ask about it. Okay, so let's close that for now. So you got your system settings there. That's one of your favorite icons. The other is your package manager, which is the Muon package manager, which is very similar to Synaptic. I just find it's got a couple more extra features in, and it's actually written for KDE. So that's your default package manager. Okay, below that is the Emerald theme manager, which is your border theme manager. You saw me open that in just a little while ago, and yeah, you can either choose a different theme or you can edit your themes, go crazy with theming the window borders, create your own as well if you want. Then it's Compiz, the Windows Settings Manager, which is also the Compiz Manager, which manages your effects. It also manages your window behavior and all that kind of things. Okay, I'm going to get into that much later. Below that you got system information, which is what you saw earlier that I opened up, shows all the information in the system. And the other favorite icon you have is your update settings, different password, your update settings manager, or whatever you want to call that, softwares and updates settings. Okay, so here you can set where you download your updates from. Currently it's set to the main server. You can set it to other, choose something closer to you. All the countries are listed there, or you can go select best server and to actually test which one's closer. Okay, you can also manage all your PPAs, your update settings, authentication, additional drivers, all of that. Okay, so those are your favorite icons in L shape. Pretty handy, pretty cool, and you'll just notice with everything that you open, it just flows. The theme just flows. It is probably going to be one of the prettiest things you've ever seen in Linux. It's just perfect balance of everything. The right kind of right amount of transparency, the right amount of sort of background layered, whichever effects they are. It just really flows. Okay, so that's brilliant. Okay, so I want to get into the actual applications now and just run through them quickly. Okay, so in this edition you're pretty much going to get a lot of the standard stuff that you kind of get inside most of the Makulu editions. A couple of games, you're going to get a solitaire card game, Mahjong, Steam is pre-installed, Sudoku's pre-installed. You got Play on Linux, which is front end for Wine, for installing Windows and Windows software and Windows games. Under graphics, you're going to get Image Magic, you're going to get KGrab, which is a screenshot app, you're going to get Nomax, which is image viewer, very cool image viewer. You're going to get Pinto, which is an image editor, and you get Simple Scan. Now GIMP is in the repos. You want to install GIMP, install it via the repos. It's very easy to do. Go to Software Center, search it, install it. Go to Package Manager, search it, install it, whatever. Very easy to install. I didn't want to waste 80 megs on an ISO just to pre-install it. Not everybody uses GIMP. I know that a lot of people do in the world use GIMP, but most end users most likely won't. They use more the basic image editors, and therefore I have installed Pinter, not GIMP. Under internet, you're going to get Firefox as your default web browser. I'll get into that in a bit. Conqueror as an alternative web browser. Pigeon as your internet messenger, obviously. Thunderbird, which is your mail client, default mail client. Under multimedia, you're going to get Clementine, which is your audio player. K3B, which is your disk burning app. KMix, which is your sound mixer. VLC media player is obviously your default media player for playing videos, that kind of thing. Under Office, you're going to get Foxit PDF Reader, which is your default PDF reader. You're going to get the full WPS Office suite. Very, very, very cool, very brilliant Office suite. Okay. LibreOffice is in the repos. OpenOffice is in the repos. So you can install a different Office suite if you want, but I would highly advise you just at least try this out before you do. You might be pleasantly surprised at how cool this is. Under settings, we've got a default firewall, so the system is extremely secure. By default it is switched off, but the user can simply just open up the firewall and just switch it on. Just give it a second. There we go. Firewall status, just click that little button over there and the firewall is turned on. Okay, so let's just switch it on, and there we go. Firewall running. You can go set your rules for your firewall if you want, or use the default rules, but there we go. Now it's probably one of the safest systems in the world. Okay, simple click, firewall on. Okay, so I wanted to make sure, because KDE is very complex, and because I'm using Compiz and not KWin, and you know that I've made I wouldn't say unnatural changes, but considering that it naturally comes out with KWin, I will probably use the word unnatural. I've made unnatural changes to KDE as what compared to the standard KDE, and therefore I wanted security and safety to be top priority as well. So you've got a very secure system with a firewall built in, fully functional, with a nice little GUI to manage it. Okay, gparted obviously is included for your partition managing. You've got Grub Customizer installed. You've also got what we call a startup disk creator that will allow you to take ISOs and turn them into a bootable flash drive or a bootable DVD. You know, so easy to make bootable versions of whatever ISO you have. Okay, you've also got updated sources. You've got your Xdiagnose. Under system, you've got Kinfo, Kdisk free. You've also got GDebi, which is your default deb installer or deb manager. You've got console, obviously, Sysguard. You've seen user manager. You've got quick disk. You've got the Muon update manager, which if I open that, let it just search for updates in the background. There we go. It's just refreshing. It's the default software update manager. If there are updates available, this usually pops up, and it will just pop up onto the center of the screen and notify you, and you can just click install updates. Very cool, very easy to use. Okay, you've got obviously a PPA manager for managing the PPAs via Launchpad. Okay, oh, that reminds me, I just want to state of the obvious. I'm going to put it into the main post as well. This is built on the core of Ubuntu 14.04 LTS, which means it's got long-term support until 2019. I think it's May 2019. So for the next 4 odd years, the system you can run pretty much without worrying about updates and things like that. It does have long-term support. Okay. The other cool thing about the system is that it comes with a built-in virus scanner. Okay. So there's the GUI interface for managing it. Don't worry about the GUI version. By default, it is 4.45. There is I think there is an updated version of this GUI to 5.53 or something, but it doesn't. It is known to cause issues with KDE, and to bypass the issues, and you have to kind of install almost, I think it's like 100 megs of dependencies and things, just to get the version 5.53 working, and I didn't want to bloat the ISO with that, so I stuck with version 4.45 of the GUI, which is fully functional. So that's why you see that little red there. That's unimportant anyway, because this antivirus can be managed via a GUI or via the terminal. Most people will probably manage via terminal. The virus definitions and the virus engine, antivirus engine, those are the important two to make sure that they're always up to date, and that will show the two little green icons. So it's a very simple GUI that will allow you to manage the antivirus app that comes in this built into the system, and it is running. So so there you have it. Pretty much very safe because you've got an antivirus scanner, very secure because you've got a built-in firewall in the system. Okay, there, as you can see, firewall. And of course, last not least, not least, it comes with a full Wine suite, so you can just double click exes or bat files, open them with Wine, and install Windows software or games on the system. Right. If we actually open up Dolphin now and just kind of look through Dolphin a bit, you'll notice that you've got quite a few extra actions here. So you've got your default actions. You've also got mount ISOs and open terminals and create a K3B project. You've also got root actions that can allow you to do things as root. And you've got compression, extraction, all that's all default standard. You've also got scan with clam AV. Okay, so you can scan any folder or file by simply just right clicking and scan with clam AV. This will actually do a scan on the system and search for viruses on that. So it's like an on-demand scanner, you know, to give you like if there's any viruses found on that folder or whatever. So if you get suspicious files that you're not sure about, you can simply just right click and scan. I know not many Linux editions can do that, but this one can. So off the bat, everything seems to be configured for the user. You've got a very pretty menu, very pretty desktop. You've got Synapse launcher. You've got all fully functional extras. You've got a pretty theme. You've got everything laid out for you in default. You know, you've got the L-shaped favorites here to most used items. If you actually open up things like Firefox, which I'm going to do now, you're going to notice that Firefox off the bat is pre-configured for you for the most part. It comes, as you can see, this is also where you can see this is running on the actual GTK theme and not the Oxygen theme. You can actually see the lines there. You can see the colors, not quite gray. It's more like a sort of a brownish gray. You know, it's very, very cool though. But there are little differences between the Oxygen and the GTK theme. Off the bat, when you have like a quick squiz around, you probably won't notice it. But when you like study in detail, you're going to see the little changes, little differences. Okay, so Firefox off the bat comes with some extensions installed: the Facebook notifications, Twitter notifications, Gmail notifications. You can configure all of those to quickly get notifications from those. It also comes with an ad blocker for blocking all the ads on websites. It comes with a YouTube downloader for quickly being able to download YouTube videos. On the YouTube page, you'll simply just have a download button on the page, and you can click on that and download the videos. It also comes with speed dials that are pre-configured for you, quite a few, to sort of common used websites, including this second speed dial, which will be a very important speed dial because that literally logs you into the Makulu live chat channel where you can chat with other Makulu users, and I from time to time pop in there as well. So if you want quick help, that's where you're going to get it. If you cannot find it there, or nobody's online, or whatever the case might be, you can always go to our homepage, click on the forum section and just post to make a thread there. You can also add onto the speed dials, so you can add new speed dials, but you'll notice even little details that are concentrated on XFCE are ported over to this version, where speed dials actually highlight when you mouse over them, so that's pretty cool. So the whole Firefox is pre-configured for the user. You can obviously change everything as you want. That's the nice thing about Linux, is the ability to change pretty much anything anywhere. Okay, the software center is the AppGrid software center. Very cool. Now my internet is very slow, so it does take a while for the actual pictures and things to load. I'm running on like a 512k line shared with 8 people, so really slow internet. You know, when I upload an ISO for a distribution, it takes me sometimes more than a day just to upload an ISO to one link, never mind 5 or 6 links. So I kind of start, before I want to release like a week beforehand, I've got to start uploading ISOs. So yeah, but anyway, that's, I just want to point out that's how slow my internet is. So that's kind of why you always see things with anything internet related, why it looks like it's sluggish. It's not, it's just the internet is slow in South Africa, or most parts of South Africa, let's put it that way. So very, very cool software center. So you can just click on something, you get a description, you get some screenshots, they'll pop up in a minute or two, and on the right hand side you get reviews. You also get an install button on the top. Okay, so there we go, everything's popped up. You get an install button on the top, one click install. Very simple, very easy to use, very fast. You know, a guy with a fast internet line is going to notice all of this is very instant, and I'm sure you guys have seen that in some of the reviews. Okay, and then of course, you know, you get console as well, which is your terminal, and it's a multi-tab terminal. You can add a new tab as well, or detach tabs, or use one tab, or separate the tabs, or whatever. So yeah, so you got a very, very functional KDE desktop, okay, or OS. I've added pretty much everything into the settings manager that should be there, and there's a couple of things that are extra as well. So you got a very, very fully functional. I've even added the KDE Connect, so you can connect devices like your Android phone and things like that. The driver managers in there. You got color correction on all of your devices. You got even camera support to configure cameras. You got full display and monitor settings, size and orientation, display configuration, screen locker, gamma. You know, so you've got a lot of settings here, some which I haven't even seen in some of the other KDE editions. I see they don't always include all of these. You know, I've included as much as I possibly can. I wanted the user to have the full experience. Okay, the only thing you're going to notice missing off this is the effects button, and the reason for that obviously is that KWin isn't the default window manager, Compiz is. Okay, so that's the reason that you won't see the effects. Everything else is pretty much there, including sharing and advanced network settings. Okay, so users can go crazy with that. Okay, now I want to get into actual Compiz, the actual Compiz window manager. Alright, so a lot of these plugins have been tested and tested and tested over and over again and fully operational. However, I must warn users. I have to give this warning. It's one of those things. When you install Compiz by default, sorry, I just want to have a smoke. Now, because I've installed this already on the system and I've configured it already, you won't see this warning. Maybe I should have included it, but well, I'm telling you now. When you install the Compiz by default, the default Compiz does give you a warning saying that, you know, if you got to be careful what you do in here, because you can't just sit and click every little icon and just hope for the best when you actually don't know what it does. Compiz is one of the most brilliant creations ever made for Linux, but at the same time it can also run either extremely stable or extremely unstable, meaning it can make your system unstable if you don't know what you're doing and you're simply just clicking everywhere. So I would caution users to be careful when they are literally just going blindly and just clicking on things. If I was you, I would do some reading up, check out some guides online on what does what before you start clicking, because certain plugins are known to cause system instability when they are activated with certain other plugins. For the most part, Compiz will warn you when you enable something and it detects a conflict that will tell you either disable this or enable that. It will usually tell you, but that 0.1% of plugins may not. So I would be very careful what I do here if you don't know what you're doing. Rather go read up and things like that. Just check it out and make sure that you actually know what you're doing when you're just clicking blindly. I know some of the guys that have eyesight problem. There's actually a guy that has weak eyes that hang out with us in the OLC channel. Very cool guy, by the way. He uses, I'm not sure if he uses enhanced zoom desktop or if he uses magnifier, but I know one of these two he uses to sort of zoom the desktop, and he loves it, and I mean it helps him greatly. So I know on any kind of OS that has Compiz enabled, he uses that a lot. But there are a lot of effects here. You can switch off. I would highly recommend not switching off window borders decorations, because the moment you switch that off, it will actually remove the window borders. It will completely remove them. So always keep that on. You can switch off cube reflections, switch off wobbly windows, switch off animations. You can switch off desktop cube, and it will actually, see there, it pops you up. You can disable the rotation. So you can switch off all the effects. You can switch off, where is the other one? Let me just find it. You can switch off the thumbnail previews. So you can switch off pretty much all the effects, and if you actually look now, you're going to see that desktop is very plain. There we go, very plain desktop, no effects. There is no cube. If I hold down Control Alt, push left, right, there's no cube, there's nothing. The desktop is very plain. Still very pretty, but very plain. There you go. You'll actually notice a huge speed increase there. When you open up something, it will be much more instant, but that's because you don't have that fade in and fade out effect, which always adds like a split second onto anything. So if you a very plain guy, switch it all off, you can. Simply a few clicks here and there, switching everything off. Very easy to do. However, I'm going to switch it back on because I like my effects. And I've got emails popping up in the background while I'm making a video. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm just going to switch off or switch on all these few default effects that I use. I like them. They are pretty, and there we go. Compiz fully functional. See how quick and easy it is to manage your effects. Each of these effects, you can still go into each and every one, and there are bindings and behaviors and reflections and deformation. Each option has sub options, so you can go in there and configure shadows and effects and go crazy. There's a lot you can do in Compiz. It is very powerful. The other thing that some users might want to use is commands. Okay, it is disabled by default, but you can tick and enable commands, and now you can put commands in, key bindings, button bindings, edge bindings, where you actually put in screen edge commands. So if you drag your mouse over here or there, it does something, whatever. So there are a lot of options in here. Users can go crazy configuring stuff in here. I would just tell you that I highly recommend that you read some guides up about this if you don't know what you're doing, because one of the things I want to warn you about is I am not going to be available to troubleshoot every little issue you have in Compiz. There are limits to what I'll assist people with. I am very busy. I'm one guy developing on 3 desktop environments, managing servers, repo boxes, website, a whole bunch of other stuff. So I am very limited on giving help. I always give help gladly, as guys will probably see in chat channel. Every now and then I pop in, go scroll through all the chats. If there's anybody asking any kind of assistance, I give it. But if you screw up your system via config settings manager because you couldn't take 2 minutes out of your time to go read a guide, that's going to be your problem, not mine. So I just want to make that clear. Okay, so pretty much that is the system in a nutshell. You get this beautiful KDE desktop environment, probably the prettiest ever made, okay, with all of these nice special effects out of the box, operating at full speed. I mean, this is VirtualBox, and look how pretty this is and how quick it runs. You've also got a firewall and an antivirus, making the system extremely stable, extremely secure, and extremely safe. You've also got it running on low resources. At boot up, you're running what, 390 megs of RAM, which is almost unheard of for KDE. Even for a plain KDE, never mind a KDE with all the special effects and everything else running in the background. I mean, that is just, I think that's insane, the amount of resources I've managed to make this little thing only use, So there you have it, KDE, MakuluLinux KDE out of the box. I just want to show something else to move the panel, because I actually had people ask about that. You simply right click, unlock widgets. You'll notice the cashew icon in the desktop is gone, but the one next to in the bottom panel on the right is there. So click that and just click on screen edge, and now you can drag the panel wherever. You can drag to the top, to the sides, and then just lock widgets again. I like keeping my widgets locked because I don't want to accidentally move stuff on the desktop. I also don't like seeing the cashew icon there. I'd like my menus right in the corners. So I keep the widgets locked, but you can simply right click, unlock them, and then you can go crazy. And there you go. Now the panel is on the top. Of course, I'm an Windows user. I've been running Linux for a number of years now, but before that I used to run Windows, and I guess it's just habit and the way, that I'm used to. Therefore, I have the panel always at the bottom. But it's very, very easy, very, very easy to move the panel to the top or wherever else you want it. So I'm going to put it back down to the bottom. Just drag that little screen edge there. And there you go. So in a nutshell, that is the essence of MakuluLinux KDE 7.0. Now there's a lot more things I could have gone into, and I didn't really want to, because I want the user to experience a lot for himself. I also want the reviewers to actually have something to review. I don't want to sit and blow through the whole system and they have nothing to actually check out themselves. But I've pretty much covered the basics, what it's about, what to expect, how to do a couple of things that I thought the users may get stuck with. So yeah, that covers the overview. It's based on LTS, it's based on which kernel it's based on, which version of KDE it's based on. You've seen the special effects that are enabled by default. You've seen the crazy cool themes that I've included. You know how to change the theme, the shell theme, to make the text display better if you're not if you have difficulty viewing the text. Simply switch the desktop theme from the glassified to the Russian theme on top, and that will enhance the effects areas. It will make them a little darker. By default I run the glassified theme, okay, because that just flows better with everything else. I've included a couple of desktop backgrounds, some old, some new. You'll notice there are quite a few old ones here, but then there are a couple of really cool new ones. You've got the Halloween one over there, which is pretty cool, very nice background. You've got the colorful full moon, which is also another brilliant, really cool looking background. You've got the pirate Chickie doing some magic while reading incantations or whatever she's doing. It's pretty cool. You got the Chickie on the forest swing. It's another really cool desktop background. For a while I actually considered making this the default one, but it's a bright new start for Makulu KDE, so I wanted to stick to the bright colors. You've got the twirl, so that's pretty cool. And of course, one of my favorites, you've got Owly. I know this is going to be quite a popular one. I also thought of making this the default one. However, I can't seem to find this in a nice bigger size, and I know some guys run these giant monitors, but I have included it. So there's Owly with his frog, his little buddy. There's the rainbow one, which is kind of just a sort of a something that I just kind of thought looked cool, with the rainbow effects on the street lights. You've got Lady X, which is kind of a good versus evil wallpaper. I thought that was pretty cool, very well done. You've got a Hello Kitty wallpaper, of all things. You've got a Hello Kitty wallpaper. Let's just do that so you can kind of see the whole. I included this because this other girl I know, she kind of loves this wallpaper. She loves the way it was done, the effects, and of course it's Hello Kitty. And I realize a lot of guys might not like it. You can delete it if you don't like it. But we probably do have a lot of female users, and maybe they'll like it, I don't know. But it is a pretty cool wallpaper. The tall bookshelves, that is also a new one. It's also pretty cool. I really like how it enhances the text and the just everything, and the candles, and a lot of books, ladders and stuff. Very cool actually. Maybe I should have made this the default, because it really is a cool wallpaper. Plain but cool. And then of course you got the yin yang kitty cats, with the yin yang pointing to the opposite sides, black and white, good and evil. There's always a balance in life, balance in everything. So that kind of represents that, I guess. I don't know, just very cool wallpaper. And then most of the others you've seen before. I think this might be a new one. I'm not actually sure if that's a new one, but that's a pretty cool one. The coffee, the heart in the cappuccino cup, that's new as well. Also pretty cool looking. So yeah, there's a variety of wallpapers here. Some new, some old. Some new, some old, very cool, just stuff for users to play with. You can also obviously add your own user backgrounds. I just want to point out that the user background directory, in case you lose your directory, because if people start messing with folder settings and stuff, you may just lose your location. The location for the backgrounds is in the /users/share/backgrounds. So that's the default background location, is user share backgrounds. Okay. So yeah, that's this Makulu. I just want to set that, because I've set it to scaled. I want to scale and crop it so it kind of looks like it's supposed to look. Okay, there we go. So that's MakuluLinux KDE 7.0 in a nutshell. Probably one of the best looking, best well designed, polished, brilliantly low resource consumption desktop environments you're going to find in 2015. This took me months and months of hard work. I actually lost a relationship because of this edition. So, you know, when you kind of lose something, when you actually literally, I wasn't married, so I didn't get divorced, but when you actually lose a relationship over something, then you got to know it pretty much took a very big chunk of your life. Okay, so it took a lot for me to make this, and I'm sure people will actually see that once they're actually using it and playing with it. There is one other thing I want to sort of just end this review on, this overview on. I just want to mention, I came across a thread the other day, and actually I've come across quite a few of them over the last few months, where people were literally upset about the fact that I mentioned a couple of months ago, I mentioned that the project is suffering, and if I do not get like at least some donations in, the project's not going to last, and I'm going to have to cut down on desktops and da 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 da. And I think people were offended by that post, you know, because I noticed that they kind of made it sound like I'm trying to force people to donate on the project, and that is so far from the truth. It's actually scary. It actually quite upset me when I read that. Now, most critics, there's a lot of critics out there. A lot of people will go, bloated system, who cares? You know, whatever, crap system, never run it. I don't care about comments like that. You know, if 5 people use my system, I'm happy. I do it because I love it, you know. And most of the critics I can handle. You know, everybody obviously has a bad day, and you read a bad review and you might make a comment you shouldn't have made. It happens to everybody, it happens to me as well. But for the most part, I can ignore critics, okay? But it is upsetting when the wrong image or the wrong idea about what this is about is being sent out to the general population. So I really do not appreciate people making comments like that, because, you know, I am one developer doing this. I'm developing on 3 desktop environments, busy with a 4th, LXDE. I run multiple repo servers. I run the website. You know, I have a lot of bills to pay. I've got repo boxes to keep up. I've got the website to keep up. I've got to maintain all of this. I've also got to eat, have a roof over my head, have a stable internet connection, have a stable computer that I can work on. I've got other computers that I test off. You know, there's a lot of costs involved in a project like this. It's not as simple as just making it and releasing it, you know. And there's many hours of work that goes into each edition. As you can see, the amount of sheer detail that I focus on in making this is many hours. There are many days that I don't sleep for more than 3 hours a night. Sometimes I'll go a whole week where I sleep 3-4 hours a night, and then, you know, I end up being so buggered that I kind of just sleep for 3 days straight almost because of that. So I work hard, very hard, and I have to discipline myself, because if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. There's nobody pushing me. There's nobody saying to me, get up and work. I have to discipline myself. So the sheer amount of discipline it takes just to do this. But you know what? I don't find it difficult to motivate myself, because I love doing it. How many people wake up in the morning and actually feel great about what they're about to do today? Going to work, I love what I do, love my boss, love this, love everything. Not a lot of people. Most people hate their jobs. Most people hate their bosses. Most people hate what they do. So a lot of people in general are unhappy with their work, but they have to do it because they have to pay the bills. Okay, I love what I do. This is what I do. I love it. It's not just become a job for me, it's become a lifestyle. Okay, so I love making this. Okay, and because I love doing it and I spend so much time on it, it is my only real source of income. Okay, there are a couple of other ways I try and generate some income, and it does help if we, lots of little bits make a sort of add up, but this is my main source of income. Okay, and I don't force anybody to donate. If I wanted to get rich, there are many, with my skills, there are many other things I could have done. I could have become a private coder, for freelancing coder. I could have worked for a programming company. There are a lot of other ways for me to make more money, ride a nice car, have a nice house, white picket fence. Trust me, there are many ways to make money much quicker than this route that I've chosen. Okay, so I'm not really in it for the money. As long as the project's paid, I have a roof over my head, my few luxuries, whatever. I don't even really have those, but just the few things that I usually use or have. As long as I have all of that, I'm happy, because I literally do what I love. So the donations do greatly help, because that is my primary source of income. But it's not making me rich. There aren't that many donations. In a month, I would say at average right now, Makulu's maybe getting like $300, if that, in donations. Not even. I think it's probably about 200 and odd. And that's some months. That's not even most months. Some months go by and nothing comes in, or just a few odd come in. So really, it's not a lot of money. But I want users to know that donating is optional. I don't force it on anybody. If you have the funds and the means to donate, and you want to donate, then by all means. It greatly takes the pressure off my shoulder, because you've got to remember, I'm stuck in a country where Linux is not popular at all. Not at all. There's almost no way for me to generate income off this via alternative routes. So I'm working blind here. I mean, money wise, I'm always stressing about if everything's going to be paid every month. And the sheer amount of hours and work I put into this is way more than a standard guy does, I'm sure, at any kind of job for normal 8-hour day. I put in way more than 8 hours a day. And the work speaks for itself, so I'm not trying to rip anybody off or some get rich quick scheme. That's not what I'm about. That's not what the project's about. So those comments are hurtful, because you send the wrong message, So yeah, I just wanted to address that. If you want to donate to the project, then by all means, you really help. But it's not a must. It's optional. You don't want to donate, that's fine. Use it. I make it free for the world. I mean, that's the whole point of the project, is me doing something I love. And I know, eventually the project will get to a point where I will need it to move to the next phase. And if I really need money, I will find some investor or somebody somewhere, or people to inject money. At this point in time, I'm happy with the way things are going. And I'm loving what I do. So yeah, the last item on the agenda that I want to discuss is the backup feature. Now this is probably going to be a very popular feature in this edition. The pure reason for that is that this backup feature allows you to back up your whole system into ISO mode. As the system is, any changes you make, if you change the theme, if you change the background, if you add widgets, if you add software, if you set up software, whatever you do to your system, once you've made your changes and you do your backup, it will back up the complete system into an ISO file. This ISO can be run in live mode, or it can be installed on a new system, and once installed, it will restore all the settings, everything as you had it, with new software, everything else. You cannot, it will even restore the current user and password. So it won't, during the restore session, it won't ask you to pick a new password and a new username. It will restore the ones that are currently existing. So in a nutshell, this can be very handy for guys that want to install on 20 PCs or 30 PCs or whatever. They just install it on one PC, set it up as they want it, with whatever username and password, with whatever settings, with whatever software, and then create an ISO and then use that new ISO to quickly restore on all the rest of the PCs. So it's very, very handy for things like that. If you just want to back up your system, put the CD or flash drive in a boot or flash drive in a drawer somewhere to keep your your installation the way you want it. That's another reason to use it. It's got a lot of really nice advantages to making a backup of your system, or one-to-one backup. So when you launch it from the settings backup, you will see there says, do you want to make a full remaster ISO backup of your system? This will make a one-to-one backup of your current system that you can install at any point. The ISO will be placed in home /remaster/remaster. It does take a while to make a backup to make an ISO, so please be patient. The ISO must be less than 4 gigabytes to work, so please make sure to clean out your home folder before you create a backup. Now simply this creates a one-to-one backup, so it will back up even your home folders as well. So don't go dump 32 gigs of videos onto your PC and then try and make a backup, or install 16 games and then try and make a backup. The ISO completed after you've created the backup, the ISO size cannot be more than 4 gigabytes for it to work. So that is the limitation. So I would suggest that you set up your system the way you want it, create your backup, and then start dumping your videos on afterwards. Also keep in mind that once you've created the ISO, you can actually go into the menu and go to Startup Disk Creator, and you can actually use Startup Disk Creator to turn that ISO into a bootable USB or a bootable DVD. So they kind of work together, the backup and the Startup Disk Creator, both available on MakuluLinux KDE. Anyway, so once you run the backup, it pop up this question. If you say no, nothing will happen. If you say yes, it will start the backup process. It does it via console, so you can kind of watch what goes on in the background, and depending on your CPU power and your RAM available, it can take anywhere from like 30-40 minutes to an hour to hour and a half. I don't know, really it's very CPU intensive, so it really depends on the power of your CPU. Anyway, so that's it. Very nice backup feature, very powerful, quick and easy. I'm not even sure that's ever been put into Linux before, where the user can just make a one-to-one backup copy with a single click of a button. So that's it. MakuluLinux KDE 7.0. Love it or hate it. I'm sure we're going to have people on both sides of that border. But for the most part, I think people are really going to love this edition. It is the first of its kind, the first KDE, because Compiz you can put on KDE, but I've never seen anybody actually release it that way. So it's the first of its kind. Plenty work's gone into this. You got a beautiful system, stable system, safe system, secure system, running with all these special effects out of the box. The theming is brilliant. I spent a lot of time on that. The wallpapers are brilliant, everything's brilliant. Dual menu system, brilliant. So yeah, I hope you guys have fun with this, and I hope you enjoy it. Leave feedback. I always love feedback. There's nothing that makes my day better than getting an email from somebody saying, I love your work, I love what you do, and I'm enjoying doing it or using it. I get them all the time, and it motivates me. It just keeps me going and just puts a smile on my face, and that's very awesome. So guys, thanks for everything. Thanks for the testers and everybody else that's helped with this version. Let's now close this chapter, send it out, and we'll move on to the next one, which is the new LXDE. And for the record, keep eye on videos for that too, because there I'm also doing a couple of sort of out of the ordinary stuff. So yeah, I'll chat to you guys soon. Cheers.